Hebrus, definition. From the root hubris, it's when Israeli founders that watch Friends, Seinfeld, Curb land in New York thinking they've already been there, they know everything, and they're meeting their American buyer, and the script falls apart.
Yeah. So much to say about that.
To me, when I actually like hear the word Hebrus, right? Because it's funny, in Hebrew, we actually, the word for hubris, right? In Hebrew is Hebris, right?
Hubris, yeah.
And in English, it's hubris, but I think it's actually better in Hebrew because there's kind of this Israeliness to it, right? Hebrew, Hubris.
Yeah.
And so I think that's this new term that I've kind of coined in, at least when it comes to the go-to-market strategy that a lot of founders are putting on the table and trying to understand how they go to America and try to understand Americans and do it based off of their minimal cultural context and often fail. Of course, son, we've talked.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people who succeed as well and are able to get through the door, but that's not everything. What's your experience like with having to deal with founders, North American expansion, and when it comes to cultural nuance especially, what does that look like?
I mean, I'm trying to understand where it comes from. And usually, we're talking with people that, they lead a company, they raise some money.
Right.
Obviously, you want to see them confident, right? But at the end of the day, it reminds me a scene from a movie.
Sure.
I love it.
Which movie?
Limitless with Bradley Cooper.
I was going to say, isn't that like that's an old movie? It's like,
I don't know, 2014?
I was going to say,
yeah,
it's like 2011, 2012, yeah.
So Robert De Niro is there.
Right.
He takes this NZT pill.
Right. I was going to say it's the drug, right?
Yeah, you get access to 100% of your brain.
Yeah, right.
And he's working with Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
He's a legendary investor.
Of course.
And they meet. And at some point, Bradley Cooper is super condescending because he's so smart. And Robert De Niro gets upset and he says this: "You do not know what I know because you have not earned those powers.
Uh-huh.
You're careless with those powers.
Uh-huh.
You fluent them and you throw them around like a brat with his trust fund. You haven't had to climb up all the greasy little rungs. You haven't had bored blind at the fundraisers. You haven't done the time and the first marriage to the girl with the right father."
Uh-huh.
I'm almost done. You think you can leap over all in single bound. You haven't had to bribe or charm or threat your way to the seat at the table. You don't know how to assess your competition because you haven't competed.
Okay.
And I
like that last part too. You haven't competed.
Yeah, and I feel like, come on, let's bring it down to Israel is like a Western country.
Yeah.
So is the U.S.
Right.
We speak English.
Right.
So
at a good level.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Right. Also, English that's able to be understood, for the most part.
Yes, we're able to communicate with them. It's not like you're talking with someone from Japan or China.
Right.
And at the same time, like you mentioned, we've all watched Friends, Seinfeld.
Right.
We've been to Manhattan. We have our spot, good enough to eat, and
Right.
sorry about all of that.
Or you have that one cousin who lives in New York or in LA or Miami.
I love the Fifth Avenue, all of that. So
Right,
at the
of
end
course.
of the day, you feel like you can do it.
Right.
It's tangible in a way.
That you have that kind of cultural understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get there, and do you think it works well? I wanted to ask you, what do you think when someone comes over with their broken English and we're more aggressive than the average American.
Sure.
And sometimes it's not working.
Yeah.
Because you bring your side of that's how it works to the table. And they're like, I'm going to write a post. I know a few people, we've got some Israeli communities in Manhattan.
100%.
They'll help me out.
Right.
That's it. So that's
Chabad,
Yeah, that's where it meets me.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I'm like, well, I've studied, lived and worked in the US for 5 years.
Sure.
I sometimes feel that there's a gap.
Right.
But it's very hard to communicate that.
Right.
So,
but you also have like actual professional experience in the US.
Oh,
You've
yeah.
been there, you've talked to Americans, you've lived there, you've had the experience. I always kind of tailor it back to like, we all know the concept when in Rome. Right? When in Rome, act as a Roman, right? Act as the Romans do, right?
What do they do?
Well, I don't know because they are 2,000 years ago. I really have no idea. I've been to Rome. I like it. Aperol Spritz, all about it. Pizza is great. Yes. But, when it comes to the U.S., right, we don't I think in Israel, the founders, they don't take that as a real understanding. As when I'm in America, act American. Not when I'm in America, speak English. That's a very different thing. And it's the same thing also when you come to Israel. As someone who's moved to Israel, I've been here almost 10 years now. It's the same idea. The most successful immigrants in Israel are often the people who try to become Israeli.
Yeah, blend in.
Right. Ones who learn the language, who go to Israeli schools, get Israeli jobs, work in the Israeli ecosystem, whatever it is. They're the ones who, in a sense, have an easier time here, right? And trying to move and navigate. And so that's in a sense, understood in Israel. But somehow it's like that transition from Israeli startup to American company. There's like this disconnect in the Israeli mentality of, hey, wait a second, just because I got my 5 units of English in high school, and just because I went abroad for, what is it, the kind of the community things, where it was the community, or something like that, or the community, went to Raman, the Rockies type of deal. I now know American mentality, which is totally wrong, because that's even American Jewish mentality, which is a whole different thing, but we can get into that. But American mentality, but you don't. And you would never tell an American, right, who's coming to Israel, oh yeah, you're going to be in a sense just fine here. Yeah, if you just speak Hebrew.
Drive to Tel Aviv. No, it's right there. Turn right and
exactly. Just go down the sea and make a right. No one would do that.
Yeah. So we talked about how companies, founders, CEOs sometimes think they can skip those phases. They know, they understand.
Right.
As an American, when you see this today, or even in the past, before you moved to Israel, I don't know if you've met with Israelis before you moved into Israel. This combination of assertive, way too confident, my English is not the best, right? I'm not using the right words all the time or whatever. How does it really look from an American standpoint? What do they get when they're on a call and they experience this for the first time? And also, have you ever seen a situation where on a call you're like, oh my God, this is going to ruin everything?
Yeah.
Just because it didn't go through the American type of filter?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, listen, having my work, as you know, is basically working with startups, taking them from Israel or abroad generally and bringing them to the North American markets, specifically in America. And one thing that I've always noticed is that, there's this concept of failing upwards, right? If you make a mistake, you move on, you go to the next step. But sometimes what I find is that when you're actually doing that with the US audience and these guys that you're bringing up, it's not a fail upwards. It's a true fail, close the door. Because once you've kind of gone to the American person, you've made your pitch and you've, in a sense, done it in the wrong way, or you said the wrong words, or you didn't really listen to what they wanted and in a sense were more pushy or more salesy than what they asked, the door's closed. They might smile. They might say thank you for your time, whatever. But that's not the indication that, hey, we're moving forward in business. And I have seen it, and it's painful to watch. Even just the other day. It's cringe. Listen, just the other day, I was on a call with an Israeli founder selling a cyber solution focused on a CISO call. I was there. I was watching the call because I had made the connection.
Right.
And I was horrified because I told the guy, listen, don't sell to the guy. This is your first time ever being in a room with him. He's interested in what you have because I've gotten him to this point, but now is the time for you to understand his needs, see if your solution really fits him, and then, if you can bring it to a demo next time, or bring it to the next call, or have him bring, his, in a sense, decision maker onto the call next time, whatever.
And you talked about this beforehand?
100%, right? You have to set expectations, right? It's my connection. I've made the connection. I reached out to the person for them. They understand the goal, and so they get on the call. Within 10 minutes, there's a deck and a demo going on in front of me. And I'm, emailing, texting, WhatsApping the founder on the side. What are you doing? What are you doing? Stop doing that. Don't do this. And he just goes. And literally at the end of the call, the guy said, listen, this was not what I had signed up for at all. And I want to be very clear about that. And while I was able to kind of save the call, actually, because of my Americanness, to try to calm the situation down and be that cultural connector, we were able to at least end on a good note. But I mean, it was very negative. And, that to me is also very embarrassing because on one side, as an American go-to-market expert, it makes me look really bad because it makes me look like, in a certain sense, like, wow, I've just sold you a guy who's not even listening to you.
Yeah, it doesn't make you look good.
Right. And also it's like, at the same time too, it makes that person look very bad. It makes them look unprepared, makes them look like they're really just like a scammy salesperson. Right. And at the end of the day, it also puts a really bad name on Israeli technology and on Israeli founders because this reputation is in this guy's mind. This guy who we were specifically talking to was from Idaho. Idaho is the middle of America. Like, they don't deal with Israelis.
Yeah.
Now you've just, in a sense, sorry to say it, but you screwed the pooch with this guy, and he's going to tell his friends about it.
So what I'm hearing, actually, and this is for founders actually listening, is that not only you're supporting them, setting expectation, they don't listen, which is fine. You don't want to work with me. I'm here. I understand. That's fine. Right. But also the other side might feel ambushed. Right. Now they're going to tell their friends about it. It's not good for you. Right. So if a professional is telling you one thing on the call, 10 minutes in. Yeah. Like if it was a sales call, that's a different story. Hey, go sell the guy. I'm there to, be there, maybe help with your English at that point. And hey, that's when a moment when English is good enough. Yeah. Truly it can be good enough. Because if you just know how to sell and you speak good English, you'll be able to do it. That maybe you don't need cultural fluency. But go to market is so much beyond sales. Really, it's so much beyond sales. And I think that's often something too, where I get into gripes with a lot of Israeli founders because, partnership building and building out channel partners, distribution networks, people who will go to bat for you in America is so important. And that's actually the cultural language there beyond English. It's something that, in a sense, in America is a lot differently built also than it is in Israel, where, in a sense, hey, it's one giant kibbutz here. Everyone, in a sense, 3 degrees of separation from the president. All good. In America, it's not the same. Oh boy, this is Hebrews 101.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you actually say one thing, and they, I'm trying to think what founders think. Okay, they jump on a call. Yeah, they have their consultant telling them don't do one thing. They're like, you're texting them in the middle. They don't value or respect that. Right. So that's exactly what we're talking about. Right. And listen, you have to decide what you're going to do at the end with those types of founders. Do you work with them or not? I mean, have you had similar situations? Yeah. I mean, you feel that in calls, it's not going to go as planned. You feel like, on discovery calls or those networking calls, so do we want to work together? You hear one thing, but when you get down to business, they'll be like, yeah, great. So that's what we're going to do. Just like you just said. Right. 10 minutes in, he thinks he knows what to do. Right. And he doesn't care about the rest of it. Exactly. So, and I'm like, where this is coming from. And that's exactly the point. Right. You need to try to, this is not, let's do kafeh shahor and close the deal. Right. So I'm trying to think where this is coming from. And also what you mentioned, I've learned, I've lived and studied in Boston for 5 years. Right. 3 years ago, I was working in a company that was acquired by a company from the Midwest. Sure. And immediately I pick up the phone and call my sister-in-law in the U.S. She, she's an American. Right. She's culturally sensitive. Yeah. I was like, what do I do? Yeah. Give me, the tips and
tell me how to talk Midwest.
She's like, Midwest, nice. Yeah. Oh, you will never know it. Yeah. They'll be nice. They'll give you, and we get there and we get hugs. And I was like, okay, that's new. I didn't get any hugging
in Boston.
Boston, no. Cold
of course,
people,
East Coast, weather. Different. New England.
So even for me, I've stayed in the. You think I think I know the U.S.? It's not. Florida is completely different than Boston, Texas, West Coast. So we need to appreciate that. Not everything is Manhattan, right? You've got, of course, Westchester, Pittsfield, Massachusetts, Colorado, which 100%. We'll get to. So I mean, it's so big. Don't skip it and don't try to kind of think that. Oh, it's going to work. Right. What works in Israel, it's not going to fly in the U.S. It's 100% completely different.
Well, it's even like, the call that I was telling you about, right? The call started, funnily enough, with the guy kind of talking about his time, moving between different states in the West. And he made some comments about how he doesn't go to the East Coast. And the founder, when we were on the call, I could see his face kind of glazing over because he didn't understand like the cultural nuances of that kind of element, which is like funny for me because I'm from Colorado, I'm from the West, I understand that. So I'm able to actually bond with them on that. And that's, I think, sometimes also a level here that you have to understand. Americans, they have their interests, they have their clubs, they have their associations, just like we do here. I was in 8200, I was in paratroopers.
I love Maccabi.
Right, I did Sabah or B'nai Akiva or whatever, right? That, everyone has it. But in America, it's just a different thing. Oh, I'm from the West. West Coast. Oh, I went to Harvard. Oh, my favorite team is the Broncos, right? Stuff like that. And that is a way where you actually can kind of break through to people and kind of move to that next stage,
I remember that in business school. I remember people outside of the US, right? It was a very international class that I was in.
Sure.
People actually, I'm not a sports fan, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But people actually started, reading more and learn about baseball, following what's going on, football. And I was like, how do you do it? It's not my thing.
Right.
You don't watch football. You're from Brazil.
Right.
Right. And it's like, dude, I do what I have to do. Right.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
At least one thing.
Right.
I mean, what if we want to give something to listeners?
Yeah.
Okay, founders listening to this, and we talked about don't skip.
Yeah.
If you can talk to an advisor, someone who knows the ground, who can give you some tips and tricks. Any thoughts? I mean, if I take it, to my approach, I would think that put your ego aside, right? Don't treat the U.S. like you're treating Israel. Treat it like a different planet.
Yeah.
Like it's China.
Exactly.
If you think you know English, you've seen Seinfeld, you've got your spot in Manhattan, it's not going to work well for you. I appreciate the,
forwardness.
Yes.
Right.
It's very assertive.
Right.
Be optimistic, but you need to listen.
Right.
That's kind of my 2 cents. Don't treat it like a foreign planet. What do you think?
100%. I think at the end of the day, you have to do your homework before going to America. And that is more than just understanding, where your audience is based. It's how to talk to the audience. It's how to localize for that audience. It's how to figure out what their exact pain points are, which are not necessarily the same pain points you may have found in Israel or other markets that are even similar. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that is what's key here. And, some people might say, oh, but that sounds like you're putting like America on a pedestal, like you know best. Well, it's kind of like, yeah, but like, wouldn't you say that to anyone who's coming to Israel? That you know best? You've been here. You learn it.
Yeah.
You know it. You have connections here. You have network. You've been successful here. It's the same idea. It's the same give and take. And I think that's the real thing. Kind of leave ego at the door and put your home and kind of put your foot through the door and say, hey, where's my homework? What do I know about these guys and how am I connecting with them? That's, I think, the most important thing when you're going to America because, that is at the end of the day, the best type of networking.
Yeah.